Hey guys, picture this. A young man walks into a seminar on wealth. The speaker asks, "Who here wants to be rich?" Every hand shoots up. Then he asks, "Who here wants to be happy?" Same response. Every hand rises. Finally, he asks, "Who here wants both?" The room explodes with laughter. But it's nervous laughter, because deep down, most people believe you can only have one: money or peace of mind, wealth or joy, riches or simplicity. But what if I told you the ancient Stoics? Yeah, men who lived 2,000 years ago without smartphones, crypto, or stock markets already solved this riddle. What if I told you that Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus left behind a blueprint not just for living well, but for becoming both rich and happy at the same time? And no, this isn't about chasing yachts or mansions. This is about a different kind of wealth. The kind of wealth that, once you master it, attracts opportunities, builds unshakable confidence, and creates a happiness so steady that no recession, betrayal, or failure can take it away from you. So, let me ask you, are you rich if you've got millions in the bank but can't sleep at night? Are you happy if you laugh with friends but can't pay rent? The Stoics believe the answer is neither. To be truly rich, you must have both wealth and peace. And the way to get there is hidden in their philosophy. Stay with me, because in the next hour, I'm going to talk to you about 8 lessons of Stoicism that will not only reshape how you think about money, but also how you think about happiness. And once you see them, you'll never look at success the same way again. Lesson 1: Redefining Wealth. Let's start with a story. Sarah, a young professional, works late into the night at her corporate job. Her boss praises her dedication, her family admires her ambition, and her friends envy the clothes, the apartment, the dinners she posts online. But here's what they don't see. Sarah lies awake every night, scrolling, restless, comparing herself to strangers on Instagram. She has money in her account, yes, but she feels poor inside. Now contrast that with Tom, a school teacher. He doesn't make 6 figures. He drives an old Honda, but when his students succeed, he lights up. When he sits down to dinner with his family, he laughs, really laughs. He has less by society's standards, but in another sense, he has more. This is where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics asked, "What does it mean to be rich?" Seneca, a philosopher who was also one of Rome's wealthiest men, wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." Think about that. Sarah had plenty, but she craved endlessly. Tom had modest means, but he was content. According to Seneca's definition, who was actually richer? Here's the mistake modern culture makes: it equates wealth with numbers. But the Stoics said wealth is not a number. It's a state, a mental posture. Richness, in their eyes, was freedom. Freedom from desperation, freedom from comparison, freedom from the endless hunger for more. Does this mean Stoicism tells you to reject money? Not at all. Marcus Aurelius himself was emperor of Rome, the richest man in his world. Yet in Meditations, he reminded himself daily, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Here's the paradox: when you stop chasing wealth to fill an emptiness, you actually become more magnetic to real opportunities. Why? Because people can sense when you're desperate, and they can sense when you're grounded. Which one do you think builds trust, attracts allies, and creates lasting success? Hold on a second. Let me make this practical. Imagine two entrepreneurs pitching their ideas. The first radiates neediness, they need the deal. They're hungry for validation. Their entire self-worth hangs in the balance. The second walks in calm, composed, clearly passionate but not desperate. Which one do investors choose? Always the second. Why? Because calm confidence signals strength. And that calm confidence, that's Stoicism in action. Here's where the philosophy becomes gold. The Stoics believed that if you can master your desires, you can master your wealth. If you're not a slave to every shiny object, you can choose wisely, invest wisely, spend wisely. That restraint doesn't make you poorer, it makes you richer. And here's the kicker: money can buy freedom. Yes, but only if your mind is already free. Otherwise, it becomes another chain. You've seen this play out. Lottery winners who end up broke, celebrities drowning in addiction, executives with ulcers and insomnia. They thought money would buy them happiness, but it only bought them new forms of misery. Now, you might be thinking, so should I just stop caring about money altogether? Not quite. The Stoics weren't monks in caves. They traded, owned property, advised emperors. They lived in the world, but they understood this money is a tool, not the master. Use it wisely, and it can build a life of dignity. Worship it, and it will enslave you. So here's your first Stoic principle for being rich and happy. Redefine wealth. Stop measuring it by the size of your bank account alone. Start measuring it by the size of your freedom, the depth of your peace, and the strength of your character. Seneca put it perfectly. If you don't regard what you have as enough, you will never be rich, even if you rule the whole world. The takeaway: you can start being rich today, right now, without waiting for a raise, a bonus, or a lottery ticket. You start by shifting your definition. By living with fewer cravings, you create more space for happiness. And that, paradoxically, makes you more prepared for opportunities that will grow your financial wealth as well. Because here's the secret the Stoics knew: true wealth is not what you store in your vault. It's what you carry in your mind. Lesson 2. Mastering desire. The Stoic key to wealth and happiness. Let me tell you a quick story. At a family dinner, Sarah's uncle leans across the table and says, "If only I had another $100,000, then I'd finally be comfortable." Her cousin interrupts, "If only I could get that promotion, I'd finally be happy." And then her younger brother chimes in, "If only I could buy that car, I'd finally feel successful." Everyone nods. Everyone agrees. And yet, if you zoom out, what's really happening? Every single person at that table has attached their happiness to something just out of reach. Each one is living in the land of if only. The Stoics had a word for this insatiability, the never-ending hunger for more. Epictetus, once a slave who rose to become one of history's greatest teachers, warned freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it. Think about that for a second. In today's world, we're told the exact opposite. Ads whisper, happiness is just one purchase away. Social media screams, keep up with them, or you're falling behind. We've built an economy fueled by dissatisfaction. And yet, despite the endless flow of products, promotions, and pleasures, people feel emptier than ever. Here's where Stoicism flips the script. Instead of chasing endless desires, the Stoics practiced desire management. They asked themselves, is this want necessary? Will fulfilling it truly improve my life? Or is it just a craving dressed up as need? Picture this: you're walking through a mall. A new phone catches your eye. Suddenly, your old phone, which worked fine 5 minutes ago, feels outdated, embarrassing even. Do you really need the new one? Or has clever marketing convinced you that your life is incomplete without it? Now, don't get me wrong. The Stoics didn't say, never enjoy life. Far from it. They drank wine, wore decent clothes, enjoyed friendships. But they built a muscle most of us have forgotten: the ability to say no. Not from deprivation, but from strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not necessary, do not desire it." That last part, if it is not necessary, do not desire it, is the gold. Imagine how much money, time, and energy you'd save if you applied that filter. How many unnecessary purchases, toxic relationships, and draining commitments would fall away? Here's the psychological angle. Modern research in behavioral science shows that humans adapt to new pleasures faster than we realize. You buy the car, the thrill fades in weeks. You get the raise. It feels normal in months. This is called the hedonic treadmill. You keep running, but you stay in the same place emotionally. The Stoics figured this out 2,000 years ago. Their solution: step off the treadmill. Stop tying happiness to the next thing. Anchor it in the present. Take Warren Buffett as a modern example. One of the richest men alive. Yet he still lives in the same house he bought in 1958. He could buy 10 mansions, but he doesn't. Why? Because he mastered desire. Contrast that with celebrities who earn millions yet spiral into debt because they can't stop buying, consuming, wanting more. Which one looks richer and happier? Now let me ask you directly, how many of your desires are really yours? And how many were implanted by culture when you crave the latest gadget? Is it because your life truly improves, or because you fear falling behind when you chase a title? Is it for meaning, or just status? Here's the Stoic practice I want you to try. Tonight, take a blank sheet of paper. Write down 3 things you desire right now, material or not. Then next to each, ask, is this necessary? Is this aligned with virtue? Will this make me freer or more enslaved? If the answer is no, cross it out. Feel the lightness that comes from eliminating the unnecessary. Because here's the paradox: when you want less, you actually gain more. More clarity, more savings, more power to pursue the few things that truly matter. And in that restraint, you build both wealth and happiness. Seneca said it best: he is most powerful who has power over himself. So what's the practical takeaway? Wealth isn't about adding endlessly. It's about subtracting wisely. By mastering desire, you unlock freedom. And with freedom, you create a life where money works for you, not the other way around. So let me anchor this back to our theme. This ancient philosophy will make you rich and happy. How? By teaching you that the richest person is not the one with the most, but the one who needs the least. And when you master desire, not only do you save and grow wealth more effectively, but you also unlock a happiness that no external event can steal. Lesson 3: Control versus chance. Why Stoics stop wasting energy on what they can't control. Picture this: Jim, a mid-level manager, walks into work one Monday and discovers his company is restructuring, his position gone. He storms home, shouting, "Why me? Why now? This isn't fair," for weeks. He spirals, angry, bitter, consumed by something he cannot change. Now, contrast Jim with Mariah, a small business owner. A global crisis hits, cutting her sales in half. She feels the fear, yes, but instead of raging at the market, she asks herself, "What can I control today?" She cuts costs, innovates, leans on a community. Within months, she's rebuilt stronger. Same storm, different response. This is the Stoic distinction: what's in our control and what's not. Epictetus drilled it into his students. Some things are up to us, and some are not. That simple line, if truly lived, could make you both rich and happy. Why? Because so much of our misery comes from wasting energy on things beyond our power: the economy, other people's opinions, traffic jams, politics, the weather. Hold on a second. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're an investor. The market dips. Panic sweeps through the news. Do you, while must rage at forces you cannot control? 2. Or calmly focus on your strategy. Risk tolerance and discipline, the things you can control. The second path doesn't just save your sanity, it protects your wealth. Marcus Aurelius, who led Rome through plagues, wars, and betrayals, wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not just philosophy, that's strategy. Because when you fixate on what's outside your control, you drain energy, you freeze, you act impulsively. But when you anchor in what's yours, your actions, your choices, your responses, you gain leverage. Here's the psychological insight. Modern cognitive behavioral therapy, directly inspired by Stoicism, teaches the same thing. You can't stop negative events, but you can control how you interpret them. That shift determines whether you collapse or grow. Think about athletes. Serena Williams can't control a bad referee call. Tom Brady can't control the weather on game day. But what makes them champions is focus on the controllables: training, preparation, mindset. The rest, noise. Now ask yourself how much of your stress comes from fighting battles you cannot win. How many hours have you lost replaying what someone else said? How many nights wasted worrying about what-ifs that never happened? That's energy that could have been invested, literally and figuratively, into building a richer life. The Stoics weren't naive. They knew fortune could turn at any moment. Seneca lost vast wealth in political upheavals. Marcus Aurelius buried children while ruling an empire. Yet their writings hum with calm acceptance, not because they didn't care, but because they understood this: truth control is the currency of peace. Here's a modern story. In 2009, during the financial crash, many lost fortunes. Some panicked and sold everything at a loss. Others, grounded in discipline, rode it out or reinvested when prices were lowest. 10 years later, those who stayed calm saw their wealth multiply. What separated the two groups? Control of response. So, let's anchor this principle back to our theme. This ancient philosophy will make you rich and happy. How? By teaching you to stop gambling your peace on things you can't control. By redirecting your energy toward action, where true wealth is created. Practical takeaway. Try the Stoic control audit. Next time you're anxious, write down everything on your mind. Then divide it into two columns, up to me and not up to me. Cross out the second column. Burn it if you have to. Then circle the first and act on it. That simple habit can transform stress into strength. Epictetus again. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. This isn't passivity, it's power. Because when you stop scattering energy on the uncontrollable, you suddenly have laser focus. And that focus, that's how fortunes are built. That's how resilience is forged. So remember Jim and Maria. Same crisis, different focus. One collapsed, the other adapted. The difference wasn't luck, it was Stoicism. And here's the paradox: when you stop obsessing over chance, you actually increase your chances. Because opportunity favors the prepared mind, the one calm enough to act, instead of panic. So let me ask you, where are you still trying to control the uncontrollable? And how much richer, in money, in peace, in freedom, would you be if you finally let it go? Lesson 4. Discipline over distraction. The Stoic formula for focus and fortune. Imagine this. Peter sits down to work on his business plan. Laptop open, coffee in hand. Within 5 minutes, ding, a notification pops up. He clicks it, then another. Then a quick scroll on social media. Suddenly, 2 hours vanish, his plan barely touched. Now picture Greg. Same laptop, same coffee. But Greg flips his phone upside down, closes every irrelevant tab, and sets a timer 90 minutes of deep focus. By the time the buzzer rings, he's made progress Peter can't touch in a week. What separated them, not intelligence, not luck, just discipline over distraction. The Stoics understood this long before the age of TikTok and infinite scroll. They warned against scattering attention on trivial things. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." He wasn't talking about push notifications, but he may as well have been. Because here's the truth: distraction is poverty. Every time you give away your focus, you spend your most valuable currency, time. And unlike money, time never replenishes. Think about it. How many fortunes have been built not because someone was smarter, but because they could stick with one thing longer? Jeff Bezos obsessing over customer service. Serena Williams drilling the same serve thousands of times. Steve Jobs insisting on design details others thought pointless. Discipline turned focus into fortune. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Hold on a second. Read that again. The problem isn't a lack of time. It's leakage. It's death by distraction. You want to be rich? Protect your focus like treasure. You want to be happy? Guard your attention from thieves. Here's the psychology. Dopamine spikes every time you check your phone, every time you get a like, every time you switch tasks. It feels like progress, but it's counterfeit. Real progress is boring. It's repetition. It's sitting with discomfort until clarity emerges. The Stoics knew this boredom wasn't an enemy. It was the training ground of greatness. Now let's get practical. Next time you sit down to work, practice the Stoic discipline of voluntary simplicity. Strip away what doesn't serve the task. Turn off notifications. Close the door. Set a timer. Then work, not frantically, but calmly, like a craftsman. When your mind wanders, Gently bring it back. That Stoic meditation in action awareness. Return, repeat. Here's a modern parable. John, a software developer, spent years hopping between side hustles, crypto, drop shipping, trading. None stuck. His friend Lisa chose one thing: coding. She put in disciplined, focused hours daily. 10 years later, John is still chasing the next shiny object. Lisa, she runs a 7-figure business. Wealth didn't come from chasing, it came from focus. So, let's circle back to our theme. This ancient philosophy will make you rich and happy. How? By teaching you that freedom isn't scattering energy everywhere. It's focusing it where it matters. Because happiness isn't in endless options. It's in mastery. Epictetus put it simply: no great thing is created suddenly. Discipline isn't glamorous, but it's the soil from which both fortune and joy grow. Every distraction resisted, every moment of focus reclaimed. That's wealth compounding in real time. So ask yourself, what's stealing your focus today? And what would happen if, just for an hour, you lived as the Stoics did? Fully present, fully disciplined, unmoved by distraction. Lesson 5. Gratitude and perspective. How Stoics turn ordinary days into rich lives. Picture this. Lisa rushes through her morning, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. She scrolls past news of billionaires on yachts, influencers in Bali, friends buying new homes. Her apartment suddenly feels small, her job inadequate, her life somehow less. That evening, she visits her grandmother. They sit down to a simple meal: bread, soup, a candle flickering. Her grandmother smiles and says, "Isn't it wonderful, a roof over our heads, warm food, and each other's company?" Lisa pauses. In that quiet moment, she feels richer than she has in months. This is Stoicism at work. Gratitude, perspective. The ability to see what you already have, not as scarcity, but as abundance. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave for them if they were not yours." In other words, imagine losing what you take for granted. Suddenly, your old car looks like freedom. Your modest paycheck looks like survival. Your relationships look like gold. Here's the modern psychological truth: gratitude rewires the brain. Studies show that people who practice daily gratitude report higher levels of happiness, lower stress, even better physical health. Why? Because gratitude interrupts the cycle of comparison. It shifts focus from what's missing to what's present. The Stoics mastered this through a practice called negative visualization. They would deliberately imagine losing what they loved: health, home, loved ones, not to depress themselves, but to sharpen appreciation. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." Picture this: Sarah, tired of her job, practices negative visualization. She imagines losing it tomorrow. Suddenly, even the annoying commute feels like a gift. Proof she's employed, secure, able to provide. That shift doesn't just make her happier, it makes her calmer, more resilient, better at her work, which ironically increases her chances of advancement. Happiness first, wealth second, but both feeding each other. Now, think about consumer culture. It thrives on dissatisfaction. Ads whisper, "You're incomplete until you buy this." But gratitude is rebellion. Gratitude says, "I already have enough. I am already rich." And when you stop chasing endlessly, two things happen. 1. You spend less, save more. Your financial wealth grows. 2. You savor more, stress less. Your emotional wealth expands. Here's a practical exercise. Tonight, before bed, write down 3 things you're grateful for. Don't just list them. Visualize losing them. Then feel the gratitude of still having them. Over time, this simple ritual builds a shield against envy, comparison, and greed. Think about modern icons. Keanu Reeves, despite fame and fortune, is known for humility, generosity, gratitude. He lives simply, treats strangers kindly, avoids flaunting. That quiet contentment, that stoic wealth. Compare it to celebrities constantly chasing attention, burning out in excess. Who looks richer, not just in money, but in spirit? Let me anchor this back to our theme. This ancient philosophy will make you rich and happy. How by teaching you to see abundance where others see lack. To measure wealth not just in dollars, but in appreciation. Because what good is more if you can't enjoy what you already have? Seneca said it plainly, "No man is poor who can see what he has." So ask yourself, are you rich already, but blind to it? And what would change if you lived each day as though what you had now was more than enough? Because here's the paradox: when you cultivate gratitude, you become both happier in the present and smarter in the future. You stop wasting money on things you don't need. You start investing in things that truly matter. Gratitude makes you wealthy twice in contentment today, and in financial security tomorrow. So tonight, when you lie down, whisper a stoic prayer, not for more, but for eyes to see the riches you already hold. Lesson 6. Resilience. How Stoics turn setbacks into assets. Let's start with a modern story. David worked years to build his startup. Late nights, borrowed money, endless sacrifice. Then, just as things began to take off, a global crisis hit. Within 3 months, his client base collapsed. His friends pitied him. His family whispered that he'd failed. For weeks, David lay in bed staring at the ceiling, consumed by shame. Then one day, he opened Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and read, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That line hit him like lightning. He realized the collapse wasn't an end. It was raw material. Within months, he pivoted his business into a new direction. The crisis hadn't destroyed him. It had redirected him. This is Stoic resilience, the art of turning obstacles into opportunities. Think about the ancient world. Epictetus was born a slave. His leg was broken by his master. Yet he didn't say, "Life is unfair, therefore I am ruined." He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Out of chains, he built freedom. Out of pain, he built wisdom. His legacy now shapes millions. Now let's connect this to wealth. Every entrepreneur, investor, or leader faces setbacks, failed deals, lost jobs, market crashes. Those who crumble stay stuck. Those who adapt grow stronger. Wealth flows toward the resilient, because resilience attracts trust. Nobody bets on the person who folds under pressure. They bet on the one who rises. Here's the psychology. Resilience isn't about denying pain. It's about reframing it. Neuroscience shows that people who interpret stress as a challenge instead of a threat perform better, live longer, and bounce back faster. The Stoics practiced this daily through mental rehearsal, imagining loss, rehearsing adversity, so when hardship struck, they weren't shocked. Seneca advised, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest fare and roughest clothing, and ask yourself, is this what I feared?" In other words, rehearse poverty, so its sting can't enslave you. Imagine losing, so you can learn to endure. That practice builds courage, which builds wealth, not just in money, but in inner strength. Here's a vivid contrast. Sarah and Tom both lose their jobs. Sarah collapses into bitterness. She spends months blaming the economy, scrolling endlessly, waiting for rescue. Tom, though shaken, says, "What's in my control?" He sharpens his skills, networks, launches a small freelance gig. Within a year, Tom's income surpasses his old salary. Same setback, different philosophy. Hold on a second. Think about your own life. How many times have you looked back at a setback that felt like the end, but turned out to be a hidden blessing? A breakup that forced growth, a job loss that opened a better door, a failure that taught resilience. The Stoics believed life wasn't happening to you, but for you, if you choose to see it. Now, here's a practical Stoic exercise. The next time you face a setback, pause and ask, how can this obstacle become fuel? Write it down. Force your mind to search for the hidden benefit. Maybe failure frees you from the wrong path. Maybe rejection redirects you to a better fit. Maybe hardship strengthens a virtue you lacked. Do this consistently, and you'll notice something. Setbacks stop breaking you. They start building you. Modern example, J.K. Rowling, rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Oprah, fired from her first TV job. Steve Jobs, kicked out of Apple, only to return years later and build it into the world's most valuable company. Were these failures or foundations? The Stoics would say, foundations. Let's tie this back to our theme. This ancient philosophy will make you rich and happy. Resilience is wealth. Because when you know you can survive failure, you stop fearing it. And when fear no longer paralyzes you, you act boldly, invest wisely, love deeply. Happiness flows not from avoiding storms, but from sailing through them with calm. Marcus Aurelius captured it perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So let me ask you, what obstacle in your life right now might secretly be an ally? And what would change if you treated every setback not as punishment, but as preparation? Because here's the paradox: the world often measures wealth by what you accumulate. The Stoics measure it by what you can endure. And the one who can endure anything, that person is already unbreakable, and therefore, truly rich. Lesson 7. Character over currency. Why integrity is the highest form of wealth. Picture this. A wealthy businessman throws a lavish party. His guests admire the mansion, the cars parked outside, the fine wine served in crystal glasses. Yet behind the smiles, whispers circle. He cuts corners, cheats partners, and treats employees like disposable tools. Yes, he is rich. But is he respected? Is he happy? Now imagine another man. He doesn't own a mansion, just a modest home. He isn't dripping in luxury, just dignity. But when he enters a room, people rise. They trust him, seek his counsel, admire his steadiness. He may not have as much currency, but he carries something greater character. The Stoics believed this was the true wealth. Seneca wrote, "Wealth is the slave of a wise man, the master of a fool." The fool becomes rich in money but bankrupt in virtue. The wise man may be rich in both, but if forced to choose, he guards his integrity first. Why? Because wealth without virtue is hollow, but virtue, even without wealth, is unshakable treasure. Let's make this modern. We live in a world obsessed with net worth. Magazines rank billionaires. Social feeds flaunt lifestyles. Yet the headlines are filled with scandals, executives imprisoned for fraud, influencers exposed for lies, athletes stripped of medals. They gained the world, but lost their souls. And when their name becomes mud, their fortune crumbles too. Contrast this with leaders who valued integrity above profit. Think of Warren Buffett, often called the Oracle of Omaha. His reputation for honesty is so strong that companies sign deals with a handshake. His fortune didn't come from manipulation, but from decades of character compounding like interest. Marcus Aurelius said it simply, "If it is not right, do not do it. Not if it's convenient. Not if you can get away with it. If it is not right, don't." That clarity is rare, but it's priceless. Here's the psychological angle. When you betray your values, you fracture yourself. You may earn money, but you bleed peace. Cognitive dissonance, living in contradiction, creates stress, anxiety, even illness. But when your actions align with your values, you walk lighter. That integrity fuels both happiness and trust. And trust is the foundation of sustainable wealth. Think about Sarah. A marketing executive offered a shortcut: inflate numbers to secure a deal. She refuses. At first, she feels foolish watching others profit, but over time, her reputation grows. Clients know she's honest. Colleagues know she's dependable. Opportunities come to her not despite her integrity, but because of it. Epictetus reminded his students, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That's character. Decide your standard, then live it daily. Here's the practical Stoic exercise. Write down 3 values you refuse to compromise, no matter the price. Maybe it's honesty, maybe fairness, maybe respect. Then test every decision against them. Does this choice strengthen my character, or sell it over time? You'll notice something: your reputation becomes armor. People may doubt your profits, but they will never doubt your word. And that's a wealth that never depreciates. Modern parable. Think of Keanu Reeves again. By Hollywood standards, he's underpaid compared to megastars. Yet his character, kindness, humility, generosity, has earned him something money can't buy: universal admiration. He may not top billionaire lists, but he is rich in something greater: respect, trust, peace. Now let's circle back. This ancient philosophy will make you rich and happy. How? By teaching you that money without character is poverty. But character, that's the kind of wealth that multiplies happiness and attracts lasting fortune. Seneca said, "A good character, when established, is not easily overthrown." So let me ask you, if tomorrow your bank account was emptied, but your name remained respected, would you still be rich? The Stoics would say yes. Because the richest man isn't the one with the fattest account, but the one whose word is gold. Lesson 8. Legacy: building wealth that outlives you. Picture this. An old man sits in a quiet room, staring at his possessions. The cars, the houses, The accounts? Impressive. Yes, but he knows that when he dies, much of it will be sold, divided, or forgotten. His life's work reduced to things that don't remember him. Now imagine another man. He passes away with far less in the bank, but at his funeral, the room is overflowing. Students he mentored, colleagues he uplifted, family he loved, all telling stories of how he shaped their lives. His wealth is alive, not in objects, but in people. Which man, then, was truly rich? This is the final Stoic lesson: legacy. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this constantly. What we do now echoes in eternity. For the Stoics, wealth was never just about gold or property. It was about the mark you leave on the world. Are you remembered as greedy or generous, as selfish or wise, as someone who consumed endlessly, or someone who built, gave, and uplifted? Let's tie this to modern times. Companies rise and fall, fortunes appear and vanish. But integrity, service, wisdom, those endure. Think of Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, but left a legacy of freedom. Think of Maya Angelou. Her words still guide millions long after her passing. Neither lived to hoard billions, but their impact is a wealth that compounds far beyond money. Seneca put it beautifully. Life is long, if you know how to use it. The Stoics believed the highest use of life wasn't accumulation, but contribution. To live in such a way that when you're gone, the world is richer because you were here. Here's the psychology. Studies show that people who focus on legacy, on meaning, service, contribution, report deeper life satisfaction than those who focus only on personal gain. Why? Because happiness is amplified when it flows through others. Gratitude multiplies when shared. Wealth grows stronger when invested in people, not just things. Think of Sarah again. She once chased promotions and paychecks, but when she shifted to mentoring younger colleagues, volunteering, and investing in relationships, something unexpected happened. Her career flourished even more. People trusted her, supported her, elevated her. Her legacy building didn't weaken her wealth, it amplified it. Now, let's make this practical. Ask yourself, what will survive me? Write it down. Maybe it's your children, maybe it's your students, maybe it's the small kindness you show daily. These are deposits into a bank far greater than any ledger, the bank of human memory and impact. Epictetus reminded his students, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. That embodiment becomes your legacy. People won't remember your speeches, they'll remember your example. They won't remember your possessions, they'll remember your presence. Here's a modern parable. Tom, a successful lawyer, retires with millions. His kids hardly visit, his colleagues barely call. His fortune gathers dust. Meanwhile, Lisa, a teacher, retires with modest savings. Yet hundreds of former students write to her, thanking her for the difference she made. She dies without a mansion, but with a legacy that no market crash can erase. So, let's anchor this final lesson. This ancient philosophy will make you rich and happy. Rich, not just in possessions, but in people. Happy, not just in moments, but in meaning. Because the Stoics knew when you align wealth with virtue, you don't just live well, you leave well. Marcus Aurelius said it best. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. So here's the final Stoic challenge. Live today as if someone, years from now, will tell a story about you. What story do you want them to tell that you amassed things, or that you built lives that you hoarded, or that you gave, that you lived small, or that you lived with dignity, strength, and love? Because here's the paradox: you cannot take wealth with you, but you can leave it behind, in the hearts of those you touched. That is the ultimate fortune. That is the Stoic path to being truly rich and deeply happy. And so, we arrive at the end of this journey. 8 lessons, drawn from voices 2,000 years old, yet echoing with a clarity that feels as if they were written for you, today, in this very moment. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. They lived in a world of emperors and slaves. Yet their wisdom pierces through time to remind us of something essential: that true wealth is not measured by coins or possessions, but by freedom, virtue, resilience, and peace. Pause for a moment and breathe. Let the noise of the world fall quiet. Ask yourself gently, am I already richer than I realized? Am I already carrying happiness in the simple things I overlook each day? You see, riches may come and go, titles may fade, markets may rise and fall, but your character, your gratitude, your strength, these cannot be stolen. They are the treasures you carry within. And when you tend to them, when you live as the Stoics urged, calm, steady, anchored in what you can control, you find yourself both rich in fortune and rich in spirit. So tonight, as you drift into rest, imagine your life not as a chase, but as a garden. Each act of discipline, each moment of gratitude, each choice of integrity, that is a seed. With patience, those seeds bloom into a life that feels whole, a life that whispers you are already enough. And if these words have stirred something in you, if they've helped you see yourself more clearly, you are welcome to stay. Subscribe channel if you wish. Leave a thought. Share this video, not out of duty, but because you feel called. Now, breathe deeply, rest gently, carry this peace with you, and remember, what you hold within is the greatest wealth of all. Good night, sweet dreams.